Hey guys, it's Greg from BitGoblin again, and today we're here to revisit Pop! OS. I know I said I wasn't going to do one of these Linux distro videos for every version that comes out, and I did do a video on the previous version 20.10, but with this new release 2104, System 76 are releasing this big new thing, the Cosmic Desktop, which is their iteration on top of the GNOME 3 desktop environment. And so far, honestly, it just has me like super impressed. So much so that I deemed it worthwhile to make a new video for this new version of Pop! OS to give you all a look at the new Cosmic Desktop and the other new goodies along with the release.
You smell that? It smells like a bit goblin.
Since we've already seen Pop! OS recently, let's just start with what's new since last time. System 76 made this cute little blog post detailing the new release and its new features, for which we'll be taking a reading from. A release of cosmic proportions. How adorable. You can find the link to this article down in the video description below if you'd like to read along or for yourself. Real quick, I would like to point out that if you're still on Pop! OS 20.10, you should consider upgrading since support gets dropped at the end of the month. There's a section about upgrading at the bottom of the article, and they also have support documentation on how to do so, which you can find the link to in the video description. Getting back to the article, I'm not going to read over every single little word since that would be a waste of time, but it appears the main point of this Cosmic Desktop, as it says right here, is to improve the experience of using your mouse, keyboard, and trackpad to navigate your system. And it seems they've taken the stance of making a smooth experience regardless of how much you use either of those three, instead of just shoehorning you into what they think is the best. The first thing they've done is added a dock which lets you quickly switch between and open applications with your mouse. They've broken up the workspace, switcher, and applications menu into simpler interfaces and have given you more customization over your top bar. The super key now triggers a new application launcher that also lets you do things like perform calculations, do web searches if you choose to do so, search for files, and a whole lot more. And they've also added trackpad gestures to make switching between workspaces and applications a breeze. They've also made some smaller changes, but overall the gist to me is that it feels like they're trying to make the desktop a lot more flexible depending on how you want to use it. Alright, now let's actually get hands-on with the new interface. If you've used GNOME before, then you'll likely feel at home with this since it is based off of GNOME and keeps a lot of the same paradigms, just with some new tweaks put in place, which, in my opinion, makes the experience a lot smoother. And of course, System 76 have done a wonderful job in placing toggles to enable or disable most, if not all of these new changes, so you can customize the desktop to your pleasure. So first up is the application dock, which is a change that I absolutely love since I virtually always used a GNOME extension to add a dock to my systems. You can see it's kind of sort of similar to the dock you see on macOS, where you have some system stuff on the left like an application launcher, workspace viewer, and then you have your favorite application pins and open applications to fill out the rest of the dock. A lot of this can be configured by going to settings, desktop, and then dock, and you can change a lot of things here. You can see here you can extend to the edge of the screen or not. Down a little further, you can also change the size of the dock icons, like large or smaller, whichever you prefer. And you can also change the position of the dock on the desktop, left side if you want like a more like Ubuntu-y experience, or on the right if you want to do that. Back up at the top, you can also change a few things like showing the application launcher, workspace viewer, the application list if you want to get rid of that too. And you can also get rid of mounted drives. You can make it as minimal as bare as you want, or you can even just disable the dock entirely if you just want a cleaner desktop look. The next cool thing that I wanted to point out is the new applications launcher. On standard GNOME installs, if you go to the activities menu or hot corner, you'll be met with this Windows 8-esque applications start screen thing, which also acts as an application launcher of sorts and handles your workspaces. But here, this new one for Cosmic Desktop seems to be a lot lighter weight than that start screen thing, and maybe not so in terms of performance, but to me it just feels a lot more focused and well designed. Just compare this when searching for Firefox to this over on the GNOME desktop. This is basically the same as any other application launcher that can search for apps. You type in what you want, I did here with Firefox, and it comes up with results matching that search string. You hit enter, and boom, your application will launch. Now, one thing I will say is that it's not quite super advanced, where you can type in strings like web browser or Office and get multiple results from your system. Like you see here, I'm going to type in web browser, and you only get Firefox. But I do have Vivaldi already installed on the system, which is another web browser, And to kind of show you that it does come up, Vivaldi right there when I type in the name. So hopefully at some point a more semantic search would get added. But for now, this works pretty well. If I know the app I want to use, I can just type in Firefox, Thunderbird, whatever else, and I'll be off to the races. So the next important update that I wanted to go over is the added touchpad gestures. Unfortunately, I can't really demonstrate them here since I'm running this in a virtual machine on my desktop, but having these available to me on my laptops has been absolutely amazing. While I know GNOME, KDE, and I'm sure other Linux desktop environments already support touchpad gestures in some form, they've always felt like an afterthought, almost as if the developers just expected it would get figured out at some point. And I've never had any consistent luck with them just working across multiple distributions and laptops. It's been a while since I last had a laptop that wasn't by System 76, so this might be a little bit biased or skewed in that direction. And I know it'll ultimately depend on the touchpad used and its drivers by any laptop you may use, if it'll work well or not, but so far I've had a much better experience with them working on this new version of Pop! OS with Cosmic Desktop. In the past, even on both of my System 76 laptops, on the GNOME or Cinnamon or whatever else desktops, these touchpad gestures would work really well on the Galago Pro, but not always work on the Gazelle, which was kind of frustrating. I just like having these ready-made and like first-hand support, I guess, being made for the desktop. It just really does feel a lot cleaner having these touchpad gestures available to me and not have to worry about setting them up. Like I said before, there are some other smaller tweaks made in this release, and as with any other distribution update, you do get newer packages for your base system, which is always beneficial for getting support for the latest computer hardware and access to the latest features. The Cosmic Desktop, to me, doesn't really feel like a huge groundbreaking new software release, but instead it is a bunch of small tweaks that really refines the GNOME desktop experience. And honestly, it's these little iterative improvements that have come along with Pop! OS updates that have really made me enjoy using it day to day. It really feels like their engineers use their OS and engage with their users to figure out questions like, how should the desktop look? What desktop paradigms do you prefer? What features do you actually use? And actually make meaningful improvements. This is in contrast to the GNOME desktop developers, and I'm sure some others do as well. And to be fair, the GNOME desktop developers have gotten better in recent releases, but for a while they just seemingly just flip coins and or roll a 20-sided die to determine their 4D chess moves when they're simply just playing a game of Connect 4. This is evidenced by their decisions like removing native support for system tray icons, and then later removing desktop icons, both of which were moves made a few years ago and were immediately met with backlash and were replaced by extensions. And to be fair to them, I do believe they backtracked on removing the desktop icons, but to me it's just kind of stupid that they were thinking about removing already working features that their users were already using, and they just seemingly did so without even asking the community. You don't have to overthink these things. Sometimes you users are right. But anyways, I kind of went off on a rant there. Getting back to Pop! OS 2104, there are some bugs I have noticed with this release though. A major one for me being the activities hot corner in the top left, which would completely stop anything from happening on my desktop. It's kind of hard to explain. The clock would still tick, but all the windows would disappear and my mouse and keyboard input would just get sent into the void and do nothing. And the only way I could get around that was by rebooting the machine, so now I just have the hot corner disabled. I also had some display scaling issues with Flatpak apps that I didn't have when using the Wayland desktop in previous versions, but display scaling really hasn't been great for Linux for a long time, and I can't really blame System 76 for that. It's just annoying that it worked in a previous version and now it works worse. I have to say though that I am pretty happy with the improvements they've made this time around. The Cosmic Desktop really feels like if the GNOME developers actually cared about usability and giving you some bits of customizability. I know they do listen to user feedback and they do some great work. I do love those guys. GNOME 40, and I believe that's the latest version, GNOME 40 has been a fantastic release. Don't get me wrong. But they definitely have a bit more of an Apple approach of, we know what's best for you, rather than modeling their desktop to fit their users. To sum it all up, in my opinion, Cosmic feels very smooth and looks great. It feels very well polished for a first release, and I'm curious to see if other Linux distributions will package it for their users. To wrap things up, as always, I'm also curious to know what you guys think about Pop! OS 2104 in the Cosmic Desktop, so be sure to head down below to the comment section and leave your thoughts. Please also leave a like on the video and subscribe so you don't miss my future videos just like this one, and if you didn't like it, then you know what to do. Also, feel free to head over and join the Bit Goblin Discord server to join the community and ask questions, or just to chat with me. I'm always open to hearing from you all. That said, I will catch you in the next one.